It's definitely that mic. Hello? No? Is it? Anyway, whatever. I do not understand how this microphone works. Right. Is it even on? It's on, but anyway, right. Accommodation. Something you might be interested if you like sleeping in beds, I guess. So the first thing to say is Edinburgh has a reputation for being expensive. Okay? Now, I'm not going to convince you that Edinburgh is the cheapest and most economical city to live in the world. It's the capital city of Scotland. Stuff is going to be expensive. So this was an article that came out last year, 2 years ago. Edinburgh, most expensive city. Oh, really? Really? This is the article. Edinburgh students pay an average of £112.05 a week. Weirdly precise. Compared to around £110 across the UK. So 112, 110. So is this a very accurate piece of research? I mean, if you read, maybe, however, Edinburgh students are still the highest social spenders and spend above the average on alcohol. So maybe some of the reason Edinburgh is expensive is because our students have a certain standard of living which they're willing to become accustomed. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is that all of these kind of surveys about, where's expensive, where's not expensive, you have to take them with a little bit of a pinch of salt, because this is another survey by NatWest, which was basically part of the same organisation that did the other survey, and it's the cheapest cities to live in the UK. And no, Edinburgh is not top, because I think Edinburgh is not the cheapest place to live. Cardiff is the cheapest place to be a student, apparently according to this survey, which is totally valid. Edinburgh falls in the middle somewhere, and that's probably, I would say, reasonable. You have to consider the whole kind of picture of what you're going to be spending, what you could potentially be earning in Edinburgh. So accommodation is probably averagely priced compared to most other university cities, on average, like 112 versus 110 pounds, whatever, even if that number is, it came from a survey from RBS, so take with that what you will. But there are other costs to do with living in cities, and there's also other rewards. So in Edinburgh, it's a lot easier to get a part-time job. It's easy to get a job over the summer because it's the capital city of Scotland. A lot of stuff is going on that needs people to do that stuff. Okay? So think quite carefully about your finances. You'd be silly not to, but try not to use kind of rubbish information to make your decisions. Okay? Okay, so with accommodation, Edinburgh University will guarantee you some accommodation if you want it, provided that Edinburgh is your first choice. Oh, we're sneaky like that, aren't we? If you put us down as an insurance, we will still likely give you some accommodation. It just might not be the accommodation that you were thinking of. You have to apply for it. Now, this is really important. If you remember one thing from all of today, you have to apply for your accommodation separate to your application for an academic place to study. Okay? When you then become unconditional, you have to become unconditional. So basically, most of you have to wait for your exam results before we'll give you an offer of accommodation. You have to live outside of Edinburgh. That's easy. Now you have to live outside of Edinburgh. We'll give you some accommodation, but it'll be in Falkirk. Right? So you have to live outside of the city of Edinburgh. Now, again, if you do live inside Edinburgh, we're not necessarily going to know you can't have anywhere to live, but you're outside of the guarantee. Okay, so it's just one of the limitations we have because we can't have an infinite number of beds. And you also have to study full time. There's a different kind of guarantee that they make for people studying part time. I think most of you have applied for full time. Okay, so the process is you've got your offer to study. Congratulations, we've all been through that already. That's pretty good. You've beat that hurdle. Then you need to apply for the accommodation through the MyEd kind of website. Okay? So it's really important that you think very carefully about what you apply for. Once you've got unconditional status, you will be emailed an offer. Okay? So that email will go to the email address that you have given them on your application. So make sure that that's an email address that you check. Also, at some point over the summer, they might start using your university email. Okay, the one that begins with S and then a long number and then @ed.ac.uk, right? So check that one as well. Okay? If you're going away on kind of an expedition somewhere to do something and you'll be out of contact from civilization, give your email access password to somebody you trust. Okay? Because if you do not respond to that email, then your offer is gone. They will make one offer. They do not negotiate. They have 9,000 students to allocate accommodation to. They don't have the resource to enter into negotiations with you over what the offer is. So this makes it really important that you think very carefully about what you choose for your when you apply. So you make 5 basically choices. They're not ranked in any order, and if you don't get any of those 5, they'll look at those 5 and say, well, they've picked ones like this, so we'll then try and give you something that's like that. Okay? So that's why it's important for you to think about what you want to apply for. You then accept once you've got that email, and then everything is happy. So think carefully about what it is you want to apply for, because there are lots of different kinds of accommodation in Edinburgh. There are self-catered, and there are catered halls, so that's where you get food and you don't get food. There are ones which have a bathroom in your room, which could be a thing for you, or there are ones where you would share a bathroom with some people. There are fancy pants modern ones, there are traditional, there are big ones, there are small ones, all kinds of fun stuff. There's also location to think about. Okay, so we are down here, where it says James Hutton Road, that's the King's Building campus. Where it says 1A Holyrood Park, that's the main Pollock Halls campus, that's where all of the catered accommodation is. 10-minute cycle, 10 minutes Google cycling. I mean, nobody cycles as slow as Google. The other place where lectures might be is in the central area, up here, where the big pin is hiding over. Not where the end of the pin is, obviously. Why would they put the end of the pin where the stuff is? Anyway, I didn't make this slide, sorry. Right, it's up here. I think they also have got some, PowerPointness. Okay, so the Central University area, so you might want to be close to there if you're doing self-catered. There is also some of the more modern accommodation is down at the top of Leith Walk, which is, I guess, a more fun place to live if you're into fun. Also, I mean, there's fun. There's fun all over. Fun is ubiquitous. You might want to think about, if you're going to do a lot of sports. Okay, so the main university sports pitches are down here, Peffermill playing fields, or the main gym is up here. Okay, although if you're sporty, you can run to these places, right? Right, so you want to think quite carefully about whether you want to have a catered accommodation or you want to have self-catered. If you have catered accommodation, you have to be there when the food is served. Okay, your rent includes the cost of the food, right? So you don't get that back if you don't eat it. So if you're off playing hockey or Quidditch or something, then you're losing out, right? If you want to have a more flexible lifestyle where you're crazy, you're out all the night, all that kind of stuff, maybe self-catered is for you. So the catered accommodation, it's mostly on this Pollock Halls campus. In fact, it is all on Pollock Halls campus. Even though it's catered, there are still little mini kitchenettes, small kitchens as well, so you can cook small things, I guess. And there's a wide range of food available. It's kind of a buffet thing. Hopefully we'll have a look at their canteen today. Apparently it's not awful. It's not awful, right? It's not awful. There you go. What more can you say? Apparently they win awards, but it's kind of these awards that you pay to win. These are pictures of rooms. I mean, if you've seen rooms before, I'm sure, all university accommodation looks the same. So, there are some greener rooms. They've won these awards. A bronze award. Anyway. So the self-catered accommodation, just that more, there's a lot more variability. So there's much smaller ones, there's bigger ones, huge range of stuff. It's all over the shop, so it's more spread around Edinburgh. And you get more independence in your living. You basically have to survive on not completely on your own. You still have support from the resident advisors. If we go on to a bit, these are some of them. They look very similar to the outside of the other ones. Buildings are buildings. Some of them are traditional. Some of them are less traditional, I guess old. Right, so what you've all been waiting for, the costs, yay. So it can be very expensive. So if you pick the most fancy pants, enormous rooms with the double bed and the view of Arthur's Seat and all that kind of stuff, then and you have catered, then up to £9,000 a year. Ooh, very expensive. But there are cheaper options for like the full catered thing as well. There is an option of having twin rooms. So rather than have your own room, you can have a room where you share with somebody that will be new to you. It's a kind of an experience. Obviously, that's cheaper. Self-catered, again, is cheaper than catered because there's no food involved. And again, you can have twin rooms in that kind of flavour as well. The thing that you should do, though, is go to this website, accom.ed.ac.uk. If you just Google accommodation Edinburgh, it'll be the top hit. And they have details of every room available, okay, or at least every residence available, and it'll have pictures of the rooms, pictures of the social spaces, details of kind of the location, the cost, all of the services, all of that kind of stuff. So go and look at that website before you make your choices. Absolutely must. There are kind of funding available if it is an issue for you not being able to afford this kind of stuff. There is some support available for that. And that is highly dependent on where you are from in the world. Because it is, right? Twin rooms, kind of, they look, yeah, so this is the most ridiculous stage photo ever. Yeah, I think no room with two guys in it has ever been that tidy. Ever. So it's, yeah, there are actually, these are quite popular. I guess one of the people quite often choose to do this. You get quite a big network of friends because you have this random person with their network of friends that you share it with. And this is the website. It's very easy to use, very easy to navigate. So the things, the accommodation search, so you can search for, if you want somewhere with kind of ensuite and like a big kitchen and all that kind of stuff, you can search for those terms and it'll tell you where all of the things that you want are. So you can do that through that button up there, or if you know whether you want catered or self-catered, then the details of all the individual flats are in that down there. So do look at that before you apply. So I mentioned it's not just about the place you live, you're also supported by resident advisors. So we have one, Yulia, here, who is a resident advisor at Pollock Halls. So these are students from second, third, fourth years who live in the accommodation with you, either on a hall or a building basis. And they're there to make sure that you are staying alive, primarily, but also to make sure that you're having a good time in Edinburgh and you're not kind of like hiding away in your room and not really doing anything. So they provide basically welfare support, but also some social support as well. And they're generally a fun bunch of responsible adults. She's kind of responsible. So they organise fun, because there's nothing like organised fun to organise the fun. Yeah. So that's kind of the first year. After the first year, Edinburgh still has accommodation for students in further years. We are unable to guarantee it for everybody, and not everybody kind of wants it. So there's a large range of stuff in the private sector. We have this kind of like system, student homes thingy, which will also help you negotiate the private rental market as well, so checking contracts and all that kind of stuff. So Scotland is really good for that kind of thing. So in England, landlords are able to behave badly in England. In Scotland, we have laws against that kind of thing. You can apply to stay within university accommodation in your second, third and following on years, either as a residence advisor or as just kind of regular housing. It's usually separate from the first year's accommodation, so you're not with freshers all the time having their freshers parties and saying, what A-levels did you do? And all that kind of these questions. It's a lot simpler than finding accommodation yourself. You don't have to have rent guarantors or anything like that, so it can be cheaper, no deposits, all that kind of stuff. There is also in Edinburgh a student housing co-op, which is between, actually it's not between any of the universities because it's independent, but it takes students from all of the 4 universities. All 4? Or? All colleges and universities in Edinburgh. So it's set up by students because some students got fed up with private landlords, so they set up their own. And it's very popular, 106. It looks like a 9, but anyway, 106 members, so they run their own halls of residence essentially. So that's another option that you might think about in your following years. But to recap, these are basically the most important things. You have to apply for your accommodation separately. Check for fundings. Once you've applied, keep updated, keep checking that email, because if you miss your email, yeah, so you apply online. So that application, 5 places, not in any order, so you have to be happy with them all. Once you're unconditional, then you'll get an offer. Do not answer that email, because then bad times. Okay, so we're back on time. Yes. So here endeth the lesson. So we're going to head over to the museum where we first started. I won't take questions now because I think you want to eat something and maybe have some drink rather than just sit here and listen to somebody else's question. But if you have some questions, I'm going to be around for the rest of the day and during the tour of the accommodation, so you can ask me questions then. We have more student helpers helping in a student way. You can ask them questions as well. Yeah, and then after lunch, we'll be starting having the one-to-one meetings with members of staff from your chosen degree program. So you'll be able to answer questions to them as well. Okay, so can you be the lead? So if you follow Sophie, she will take you away to where you're going.